is the business model of a private airline under siege. And we've seen this over the years. Several Indian airlines have ceased operations over the years due to financial distress, mergers, insolvency. Remember Jet Airways, Jet Light, formerly Sahara Airways, operated from the mid-90s to 2019, shut down, heavy debt, intense fare wars. Naresh Goyal was even prosecuted. Air Deccan, operated from 2003 to 2008, was merged with Kingfisher Airline, which itself collapsed in 2012 under a massive debt exceeding 9,000 crores. Vijay Mallya is out of the country, who was the promoter. Paramount Airways also folded due to debt. Go First, earlier known as Go Airlines, operated from 2005 to 23, also entering insolvency. Smaller airlines, MDLR, Air Pegasus, Air Costa, Zoom Air, all have shut down. Air Asia and Vistara ended operations, were merged into Air India more recently. So it hasn't been, and we'll put out the profit numbers in a moment, but Dr. Suseelan, since you have been experience of running private airlines, is this an unviable sector across the world?
Yeah,
Not easy to make money on aviation, but in India, it's particularly accentuated. Rahul Bhatia and Rahul Gangwal of Indigo may have got lucky at one time, but it's not enough.
So there's a say that, if you want to be a millionaire, spend billions in aviation business. That's what, because you lose money in aviation business, especially when it comes to Indian market. Definitely the taxes are very high. The fuel price keep fluctuating in favor of the government, not in favor of the airlines. Definitely it's not a profitable sector within India. That's why no investor want to invest in commercial airlines in India, because whichever example we see, whichever case studies we see, we always see the airlines are collapsing in India. I had operated my own airline, Air Odisha, in Udan route, but it takes months for me to get the subsidies from the airline. The airports were not ready. Now we have 162 airports, but when we started the operation and when we had bidded around 74 routes under Udan scheme, we got only 10 operational airports. My aircraft was parked in the hangar for days because there was no airports. So now, definitely the taxes are very high. If you go for now private airport, if you land in that private airport, the taxes are huge. So we don't want to fly in that. So if you take an example of Bombay Airport, we don't want to fly to Bombay Airport because we want to go to Pune, because the airport comes under Airport Authority of India and taxes are less there. So definitely, business of aviation in India is not profitable.
Okay, let me bring in more voices on that. Sanjay Lazar, there's so much of talk. When I asked the minister, he said, our plan is to have 5 competitive airlines over the next 5 years. That's what will bring passenger fares down, will make the industry more competitive. It's not happening. I've heard this over the years. Open skies, I heard Praful Patel talk about it 20 years ago. Now I hear Mr. Ram Naidu talk about it. Is that possible or not? Is there something structurally wrong?
Rajdeep, there are 2 points in this question. One is there space? There is room for at least one full service carrier, in my view, and one really ultra low cost or regional carrier. We have space. But like Dr. Suseelan says, we are structurally long. 50+% is ATF. Then you've got the taxes, your airport taxes, CUTE, UDF, all this. So it makes it a challenging task for any entrepreneur to start an airline and grow the way Indigo or Spice or Akasa has grown. Excuse me. But government needs to look at this very carefully. If it wants more competition, if it wants to avoid the monopoly that it sees from Indigo, then it's got to restructure the operations. It's got to reduce taxes. It's got to make it more friendly so people come in and they're welcomed in with less of this burden. So that's one very important thing. That's the only way we are going to see expansion of this aviation sector. Otherwise, like he says, billionaires will become millionaires and sold up 15, 20 airlines have shut shop since 1992, and we'll only expect more to happen.
We've got limited time. I want to bring you in, Jitendra Bhargava. I remember you used to write about Air India. Once you left Air India, about how Air India's monopoly had in a way destroyed the, or the government ended up destroying Air India because of the excessive governmental control. Today, open skies, private airlines, and we have many of the same crises coming back, crises of governance, crisis of not expanding the sector fast enough. Even though the number of airports are increasing, the number of passengers are expected to grow exponentially. There seems to be somewhere something structurally wrong. What's the solution? Mr. Bhargava. Okay, let me try and...
The government
Yeah, go
should
ahead.
stay away from the aviation sector.
Yes?
No,
Go
the
ahead.
government should simply stay away from it. They've let the private enterprise come in and run it. Yes, there are flaws in the system at the moment as the Indigo's climbing to the market share, dominant player, 65% market share, but that's been entirely because they could seize the opportunity when an airline collapsed. Now imagine if the minister says there is room for 5 airlines, big airlines in the country. The question is, who will cede ground or market share? Indigo already has placed orders for 1,000 aircraft. Air India 570. Both of them account for 90% domestic market share. And in the beginning, Rajdeep, just one correction. You made a statement on the number of pilots you had per aircraft, Indigo and Air India. Let's not forget that Air India has a large number of long-haul, large-capacity aircraft. So the requirement when you have the rest period and all, the requirement is more in the case of Air India as compared to an airline which is operating medium-sized or small aircraft on short-haul sectors.
Captain Amit Singh, in a lot of the discussion so far, we haven't spoken about pilots, their concerns. You speak to them off the record. They wanted these FDTL rules. Now they've been pushed back to February. Is that a fear that pilots' concerns at the moment have lost out because of all that's happened in the last week? Their genuine concerns over their safety stress levels.
See, if you see the history of FDTL, right from 1992, 2007 FDTL was issued. It was kept under abeyance because of pressure from the airlines. Then 2011, another FDTL came. 2012, there was Mangalore crash. FDTL was more stringent rules were implemented, but again, there was a pushback from the airlines. It was kept under abeyance. Then again, 2019, it was issued. 24, again under abeyance. So there's always a push from the airlines, and for some reason, the rules which are meant for safety are kept under abeyance. So that is the
that's the
history
point.
of FDTL.
That's my fourth question.
If you
How
look
to
at-
make, which is exactly my question. How do you make India's skies safer and more competitive? How do you get more players and make them safer? Do you think it's possible, Captain, to do both? Make the skies safer, but bring in more players.
Aviation is highly regulated, or rather over-regulated. Indigo itself is not a true low-cost airline. It's a hybrid airline because the regulatory requirements are so much that one person can do only one job, like a security person can only do a security job. He cannot do somebody else's job. So therefore, the overheads are very high. So that is the problem, rationalization. So we have to rationalize. And then fuel is the biggest issue. Fuel, there was a proposal about two decades back that airport authority and the airlines will import the fuel. So that will lower the taxes rather than coming through the state. They will get they'll have their own system of fuel. So that alternate arrangements may be looked at.
So there's greed on the part of the state, which wants to collect more revenue through fuel taxes. There's greed on the part of airlines, which will resort to shortcuts. That question to you, Sanat Kaul, how to make India's skies safer and more competitive? Is that possible? Or will we come back to this debate 5 years from now yet again? So many Indian airlines have collapsed in the recent past.
Yes, I think this is practical because there is an imbalance. Airports make money, airlines lose money. Now, we have an economic regulator for airports, but there is no economic regulator for airlines. I think there is a need to look into this, that why is the airports are making money, but airlines are not making money. Because of competition, yes, but there are many other reasons. The fuel, the taxation, the everything which is loaded on to the airlines, of course, they sell their tickets after adding all these things. But there is an imbalance in my view, and the passengers suffer because they have to pay high. But I think there is a need for a full study of the aviation sector rather than piecemeal about airlines and airports separately.
Right. Sherbi, do you see more players coming in, or will the Indigo experience make them even more diffident? Even Rahul Bhatia himself is expanding reportedly into the hotels business of Indigo. He's not necessarily only looking at the airline anymore. Do you see more airline players coming, given the fact that across the world, it's not easy to make money on airlines? I just want to put some figures. The world's largest aviation market, United States, 876 million passengers, 5.2 increase from the previous year. China followed with 741 million passengers, growth rate at 18.7. UK ranked third, interestingly, to 261 million passengers, up 7.3. Spain and India comes fifth, handled 211 passengers, increasing 11.1 rise. So there's a percent rise. So there's an increase in passengers, increase in airports. Will there be an increase in airlines, making the sector more competitive and hopefully safer?
Rajdeep, it's a long shot. There's a lot of structural reform necessary before that happens. But let's give credit where it's due. Indigo brought in a fair degree of innovation into the system and did a lot to cut costs. Sometimes, and now as we've learned over the years, they've lost their way, and including at the cost of safety. But what we would need, and I'm going to quote Ronald Reagan here when he said the 9 most dangerous words in the English language are, "I am from the government and I'm here to help." When we have the DGCA is the most successfully lobbied regulator in the country. There's a leaf they need to take out of the book of other regulators that also look into significantly heavily regulated sectors. That needs to change. Government policy needs to change. It needs to be a place where commerce happens. There is regulation on norms and safety, but there is not, if we're going to end up in this price cap mechanism, etc., that's not going to inspire confidence either for markets or for new players. So long way to go, and I'm afraid you may just be sitting here 5 years later and asking the same question now.
No, you're calling for the reform of the regulator. You're saying start.
I'm saying regulator and government.
You've got to deregulate the regulator in a way, or the regulator focuses on core issues rather than entering every little sector of the aviation business. Am I correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. I think we've got a sense from all of you of the challenges that lie within. Did it take a crisis like Indigo for us to wake up to it? That's the question that will be asked. But sometimes in India, it takes a crisis for suddenly reform to take place. The aviation sector has ridden into the open skies more than 2 decades ago. But now, in many ways, it's been a wake-up call, a reality check. And that I appreciate that all my panelists, I hope, have given the government, in a sense, a reality check. You're having a smile on your face, Mr. Lazar. What do you want to say? I'll give you a 30-second. What is the final word?
In all this turmoil, I believe there's a ray of sunshine. And that ray of sunshine, like, Sherbir just pointed out, is that we can restructure our complete aviation infrastructure. Whether it's redoing the DGCA, redoing, the pilots and operational structure. This is a chance to take off in a clean slate. And I hope that this ministry and the PMO and everybody looks at it, because we are the fastest growing aviation market on earth. We are going to be number 3 in the next 5 years. And I look forward to bright aviation. Indigo is a game-changing airline. It's going to continue to grow. Of course, we know that. We want to see others. So I hope and pray that we can make the right steps. Criticism is not about wanting the other guy to fail. It's about wanting them to succeed within the fine and narrow. That's what I want to say.
Okay.